Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Nights. This is Kevin, and tonight we'll journey back to ancient Ireland, where we become a young druid's apprentice. But first, make yourself comfortable in your bed. Take a moment to find that perfect position. Maybe feel the gentle weight of your covers, creating a perfect cocoon around you. Take a deep, slow breath in through your nose, and as you exhale, imagine a small sphere of pure golden light forming in the center of your chest. With each breath, this light grows stronger and warmer, like gentle sunlight on a peaceful morning. Let this healing light begin to flow outward with each breath. Feel the warm light spreading slowly through your body, bringing deep relaxation wherever it touches. It flows down into your hips, your legs, all the way to your toes, then upward through your chest, along your arms to your fingertips, up through your neck and into your head. Each part of you becoming peaceful and calm as the healing light flows through you. The golden light surrounds you now, like a protective cocoon, glowing with gentle energy. Perhaps you notice it pulsing softly with your heartbeat, or flowing like a peaceful river with each breath. Remember, there's no need to concentrate too deeply. Simply rest in this healing light as my voice carries you along in tonight's tale. And now, as your breathing becomes as steady as ancient stones, and your mind as quiet as a forest pool beneath the stars, prepare to journey with me to a time when wisdom was written in stone and starlight, where the deepest mysteries are about to be revealed. The morning mist clings to the sacred herbs as you kneel beside your mentor, Oisin, carefully cutting stems with a bronze knife. Dawn hasn't quite broken over the hill of Tara, but the first blackbirds have begun their song, their melodies carrying through the pale darkness like scattered silver. The ancient settlement sleeps behind you, its roundhouses still wreathed in the smoke of banking fires, while ahead, the ceremonial path winds up toward the great hill, where the high kings of ancient Ireland are crowned. Feel the stems before you cut, Oisin reminds you softly, his weathered hands demonstrating the proper technique. The plants speak to those who listen. You've been his apprentice for 3 summers now, learning the ways of the druids. But there's always something new to discover. The old druid's oak staff lies beside him, its surface carved with symbols that catch the growing light. You've learned to read some of them during your training. Ancient words of power, records of sacred knowledge, passed down through generations. Your own staff, still smooth and unmarked, waits for the day where you'll earn your first sacred marks and symbols. The herbs are especially potent this morning, Oisin observes, adding carefully selected leaves to his woven basket. The earth knows what approaches. He glances at you with eyes that seem to hold centuries of wisdom. Just as I knew you would be the one, Finn. When you came first to learn our ways. Some are born to hear the old songs. You remember that day? How the hazel wand had trembled in your hand during the testing. How the sacred fire had leaped higher when you approached. Since then, you've learned to read the flight of birds, to find healing plants by starlight, to hear the whispered wisdom in the wind through ancient stones. But something in your mentor's voice suggests this morning is different. The mist shifts around you as the sun edges closer to the horizon. The scent of dew-touched thyme mingles with burning peat from the settlement's hearths. Moths dance in the growing light like wandering stars, their wings brushing the sacred herbs that will be used in today's ceremonies. There is a task approaching, Oisin says quietly, reaching for his staff. One that hasn't been undertaken in 7 generations. The ancient ones have shown signs in the pattern of falling leaves, in the flight of winter geese, in the very stones themselves. He pauses, watching the mist swirl around you both. It's time to raise a new stone circle. Your heart quickens at his words. You've seen the great stone circles that dot the sacred landscapes. Massive pillars of rock aligned with sun and stars, their shadows marking the turning of the seasons. To help build one, the thought fills you with equal parts excitement and awe. Movement catches your eye. Something pale and graceful in the thinning mist. There, at the edge of the sacred grove, stands a white stag. Its antlers crowned with the first light of dawn. It meets your gaze with ancient eyes. Eyes that seem to hold the same wisdom you see in Oisin's face. Then, as quietly as a falling leaf, it turns and disappears into the mist, leaving you with the certainty that your life as a druid's apprentice is about to change forever. Come, Oisin says, gathering his basket of herbs. The others will be arriving soon. Today, you begin to learn the deepest mysteries of stone and sky. The forest path winds before you like a river of earth. Ancient oak and hazel trees, creating shadows that dance in the strengthening daylight. You walk among the elder druids, their white robes brushing the dewy ferns, each step measured and purposeful. Oisin leads the small procession, his staff marking a steady rhythm against the ground that seems to echo through the sacred grove. Watch how the brambles bend, one of the elders Niall says softly. His grey-stalked beard catches the dappled sunlight as he points to the undergrowth. They show the hidden paths if you know how to look. You've learned much about reading nature's signs during your apprenticeship. But the elders see layers of meaning that you're only beginning to understand. And just then, a flash of white light through the trees catches your attention. The stag from dawn. Its antlers now crowned with morning light. It pauses, watching your group with eyes that seem to hold starlight, before bounding ahead along the path. The ancient ones guide us still, Oisin mummers approvingly. The druids carry their sacred tools with reverence. You've been entrusted with the bronze mirrors, carefully wrapped in undyed wool, their surfaces polished to capture and direct the sun's path. Others bear the measuring ropes, marked with knots that contain the sacred numbers, and smooth yew rods for calculating the stars' positions. Each item has its own chant, its own story, passed down through countless generations. Ravens circle overhead, their wings cutting patterns against the sky. The elders pause, reading the bird's flight. They speak of others gathering, Niall interprets, his voice carrying the weight of ancient knowledge. The signs align. As if summoned by his own words, you hear chanting drifting through the trees. Around a bend in the path, you encounter another group of druids, their robes decorated with different patterns that mark them as coming from the western tribes. They carry their own sacred tools, some made of materials you've never seen, exotic woods, strange metals, crystals that seem to glow from within. The white stag appears again, more distant now, standing at the edge of a clearing that takes your breath away. Here, the forest opens into a natural bowl in the earth. It slopes, creating perfect lines that point to where significant stars will rise. Ancient trees ring the space, their branches framing specific parts of the skyline, like living windows. The earth herself has shaped this place, Oisin says. Through countless winters, she has prepared it for us. You notice how the ground forms subtle ridges and hollows that align with the sun's path across the sky. Even the streams that trickle down the slopes seem to follow patterns that mirror the movements of celestial bodies. As evening approaches, more druids arrive from different directions, each group guided by their own signs and omens. The clearing fills with quiet activity as sacred tools are unwrapped. Measuring ropes are stretched between carefully chosen points, and the first prayers are whispered to the awakening stars. The white stag makes one final appearance, standing perfectly still at the highest point of the amphitheater. As the first evening star appears above its antlers, you understand why this place was chosen. Here, earth and sky meet in perfect harmony, waiting for the stones that will mark their eternal dance. Oisin gathers everyone in a circle as twilight deepens. Now, he says, we begin the ancient work. Tonight, we choose the stones that will stand until the last star falls. The ancient quarry opens before you like a giant staircase. Its weathered layers descending into earth that hasn't seen sunlight in centuries. Torches flicker in bronze holders, casting dancing shadows across stone faces that gleam with veins of quartz and ancient seashells turned to stone. The elders spread out along the quarry's edges, their white robes taking on the orange glow of the flames. Every stone has a voice, Oshin explains, leading you down worn steps cut into the quarry wall. Some whisper, some sing, and a precious few. He pauses, running his hand along a massive stone face. A precious few remember the first songs of creation. His fingers find a crystal vein that catches the torchlight. These are the ones we seek tonight. The druids begin a low chant in the old tongue. Words that feel older than the stones themselves. You recognize parts of it. Prayers to the earth, to the ancestors. As if summoned by the sound, tiny lights begin to dance at the edges of your vision. The fairy folk coming to witness the choosing. Watch, Niall demonstrates, approaching a promising stone. He strikes it gently with a yew rod and presses his ear to the surface. The sound rings pure and clear through the quarry. This one remembers water, he says. Good for catching moonlight, but not what we need for this circle's foundation. You move among the stone faces, practicing what you've been taught. Some stones feel warm under your touch, despite the cool evening air. Others seem to hum even before they're struck, The fairy folk flit around you like curious fireflies, their lights lingering near certain stones, as if trying to draw your attention. A soft green light hovers near a massive stone, shot through with silver. Following your instincts, you strike it gently with your rod. The note that rings out makes the torches flicker, deep and pure, like the earth itself singing. The fairy folk dance excitedly around the stone as the sound fades. Finn has found one, Oisin calls. The other druids gather, adding their own testing sounds to yours. Each strike builds on the last, creating harmonies that seem to wake something deep in the rock. You can feel it in your bones. This stone wants to be part of the circle. The choosing continues as twilight deepens into true night. You discover that you can feel the stone songs even before striking them. A talent that brings approving nods from the elders. Each chosen stone is marked with sacred symbols. Its surface blessed with water from holy wells. The stones that sing strongest, an elder from the western tribes explains, are the ones that remember when they were stars themselves, before the earth cooled and hardened. He shows you how different crystal veins create different tones. How some stones respond more strongly to moonlight than sunlight. The fairy folk become more visible as night falls. Their forms almost solid in the torchlight. They lead you to stones you might have missed. One hidden behind fallen rocks, another still half buried in earth. Each one you test rings with its own perfect note. Each sound a piece of the harmony you're building. Then, just as the moon's edge appears over the quarry wall, you see it. The white stag standing at the highest point, its form gleaming like polished marble. Below it, partially revealed by moonlight, stands a stone unlike any you've seen tonight. Quartz crystals spiral through its surface in patterns that mirror the stars above. As you approach, the fairy folk gather around you in unprecedented numbers, their lights creating a pathway towards the stone. Your hand trembles slightly as you raise the yew rod. The note that rings out when you strike it silences every other sound in the quarry. It's like hearing the voice of the earth itself. Deep, powerful, and somehow familiar. As if you've known this sound since before you were born. The capstone. Oisin breathes, his eyes bright in the moonlight. Found by one who can truly hear. The white stag dips its head once before disappearing into darkness. Its purpose fulfilled. The moon rises fully now, casting its silver light across your chosen stones. Tomorrow, you will begin the work of moving them. But tonight, in this ancient quarry, blessed by the fairy folk, you stand among stones that sing with the music of creation itself. The first hints of dawn color the sky as you help Oisin place the shadow sticks in precisely measured positions. Your breath mists in the cool morning air while you stretch the knotted ropes between markers. Each knot representing sacred numbers passed down through generations of druids. The great stone awaits on its wooden cradle, dark against the lightning sky. Seven times, 7 paces from the center point, Oisin guides, watching as you measure. Then 3 times 3 to mark the sun's journey. You've practiced these calculations countless times, but never for something so important. The stone must align perfectly with both the midwinter sunrise and the spring equinox, marking the turning of seasons for centuries to come. Other druids move around you in careful patterns, placing markers and checking angles, using bronze mirrors that catch the first rays of sunlight. Their movements are part of an ancient dance, one that weaves together earth and sky. You watch how the shadows move across the carefully prepared ground, remembering Oisin's teachings about how the stars themselves once taught these measurements to your ancestors. There, you say, finding the exact point where multiple measurements converge. The morning light catches a crystal in the stone face, sending a brief flash like a wink from the earth itself. Oisin then checks your calculations using his own methods, counting the lengths in poetic meters, measuring angles against the positions of sacred trees on the horizon. The apprentice has found true, he announces. The other druids gather, forming a circle around the stone. The chanting begins softly. Ancient words that speak of raising mountains, of stars falling to earth, of the first dawn when the world was young. You take your place in the circle as the wooden rollers are positioned and the ropes are secured. The sun climbs higher as the work continues. The stone seems to grow lighter with each careful pull, as if the chanting itself is helping to lift it. You notice how the shadows of the other standing stones create perfect lines that intersect exactly where this one will stand. Even the birds seem to understand the importance of the movement, their songs joining with the druids' chants in strange harmony. Just as the stone begins its final rise, the white stag appears on a nearby ridge. It stands perfectly still, watching as the massive pillar slowly tilts upward. The sunlight catches in the stag's antlers, the exact moment the stone reaches its tipping point, creating a crown of light that mirrors the stone's own crystal veins. The final positioning requires both strength and absolute precision. Every druid knows their role, adjusting ropes and guides with tiny movements until the stone begins to settle into its prepared socket. The chanting grows stronger, and you feel something shift in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. As the stone glides into its final position, a beam of light strikes its face, a beam of sunlight illuminating the crystal patterns within. For a moment, the entire pillar seems to glow from within, its light connecting earth and sky. The white stag bows its head once before melting back into the morning mist. Oisin places his hand on the stone, feeling its alignment. "Perfect," he whispers, and you hear the pride in his voice. "It will stand until the stars themselves grow old." The great stone towers above you now, its shadow reaching out to touch the exact points you measured, ready to begin its eternal dance with sun and moon. As each stone rises to join the first, you begin to see the pattern emerging. Not just the physical circle, but the sacred geometry that connects earth to sky. The second stone marks the setting of the Antares, the bright star the elders call the heart of the scorpion. The third aligns the rising point of the Pleiades, star cluster known in the old tales as the Seven Sisters. See how they speak to each other, Oisin shows you. Standing between two newly raised pillars. This one catches the first light of morning, while its partner marks the last ray of sunset. You watch the shadows play between the stones, understanding now how they'll track the wheel of the year through all the sacred festivals. The fairy folk have become constant companions during the work. Their lights dancing around the circle, like curious stars come down to earth. They seem especially drawn to the crystals in the stones. Their own light creating tiny rainbows that flicker across the ancient surfaces. Sometimes they guide your hand as you help measure alignments, showing you secrets hidden in the rock that even the elders might miss. Each new stone brings fresh understanding. You learn how 3 stones working together can track the moon's complex dance across the seasons. Another group forms a window that will capture the first ray of midwinter dawn, sending it to the circle's heart. The druids teach you how to read these alignments, how to understand the sophisticated mathematics encoded in stone and shadow. This one, you tell a younger apprentice who's watching in awe, will mark the time for planting when the oak leaves are the size of a mouse's ear. The knowledge flows naturally now, as if the stones themselves are teaching you their wisdom. And see how it partners with that darker one. Together they'll show when the salmon return to the sacred pools. The circle grows stone by stone, each placement accompanied by chants and ceremonies specific to its purpose. Some stones are for healing, others for teaching, still others for keeping the old stories safe. You help position a pair of pillars that will capture the sound of wind and turn it into music during the quarter festivals. As the final stone is prepared, the one you found in the quarry, you stand at the circle's center in the fading light. The fairy folk weave between pillars like threads of starlight, somehow making the massive stones seem to dance. Around you, what began as separate pieces has become something greater. A calendar, a temple, a bridge between worlds. Tomorrow, Oshin says, as twilight deepens around the nearly completed circle, we raise the capstone, the first light of dawn. The wheel will be complete, and a new age of wisdom will begin. The stars begin to fade as you take your place among the druids. The completed circle rising around you, like ancient guardians in the pre-dawn light. Only the capstone remains, the singing stone you found by starlight. The fairy folk gather, their lights creating a second circle that mirrors the stone above. Oshin stands beside you, his staff marking the exact spot where the first ray of dawn will touch the circle. Everything must align perfectly, he murmurs. Though you understand now that he means more than just the physical placement. This moment has been written in stone and starlight since the first druids learned to read the sky's wisdom. The chanting begins as the eastern sky brightens, not just from the druids, but from the stones themselves. Each pillar seems to ring with its own note, awakened by the approaching dawn. You feel the sound in your bones, recognizing the same deep music you heard in the quarry. But now, woven into a complete song. First light catches the crystal veins in the eastern stones, sending beams of golden radiance dancing through the circle. The fairy folk swirl through these lights like living stardust, their movements creating patterns that mirror the sacred symbols carved into your mentor's staff. The capstone rises with the sun, guided by ropes and rollers, but seeming almost to lift itself. Its spiral patterns catch the dawn light, creating a display that draws gasps even from the eldest druids. As it settles into its final position, completing the circle, something shifts in the air, like the moment when a bard finds the perfect note to complete an ancient song. Movement draws your eye to the circle's eastern gate. The white stag stands there one final time, its form now seemingly made of pure dawn light, behind it, the sun crests the horizon, sending its first full ray through the carefully aligned stones. The beam strikes the capstone's center spiral, and suddenly, the entire circle is alive with light. Each stone catching and reflecting the radiance in exactly the way you all planned, yet somehow more magical than you imagined. Watch, Oshin whispers, and you see how the light creates shadows that mark the wheel of the year. Patterns written in light and darkness across the circle's floor. The stones you helped choose and raise will track festivals throughout countless generations, keeping the old wisdom alive in a language written in sunlight and shadow. The white stag bows its head before dissolving into the morning mist. But now you understand. Its spirit, like the wisdom of the ancestors, lives on in the stones themselves. This circle will stand as witness to 1,000 dawns, teaching those who learn to read its signs, singing its deep earth song to all willing to listen. As the sun rises fully into the morning sky, you feel the weight of what you've helped create. Not just a monument of stone, but a keeper of sacred knowledge, a teacher of ancient ways, a bridge between past and future. The fairy folk dance one final pattern through the stones before fading with the last shadows of night, leaving behind a sense of blessing that seems to radiate from the very earth. Now, Oshin says softly, his hand resting on the capstone. Now you understand why we build in stone. Some wisdom is too precious to trust to words alone. Around you, the circle hums with its own quiet music, ready to begin its eternal dance with sun and stars, keeping safe the deepest mysteries until they're needed once again.